You're tuned to WKPR Emergency Frequency 91.7, and this is the last broadcast. My name is Mercer. What I am about to tell you is real. I want you to stay calm. I want you to stay with me. Whatever you are doing right now, driving, sitting at a kitchen table, holding your phone in a parking lot somewhere wondering why traffic isn't moving, I need you to listen. Something has happened along the Pacific coast, and we are still assembling the full picture. But the picture is already large, it is already serious, and I will not lie to you. That is the one promise I will make and keep for as long as this signal holds. Let me start from the beginning as best as I understand it. Approximately 40 minutes ago, seismic monitoring stations across the Pacific Rim began registering anomalous readings. Not a single earthquake, not a localized tremor. What USGS is describing, and I have the advisory right here in my hand, is a cascading sequence of fault ruptures occurring simultaneously along the Cascadia Subduction Zone, the San Andreas Fault system, and what they're calling an unnamed deep ocean fracture approximately 300 kilometers west of the Oregon coast. The USGS advisory uses the phrase unprecedented rupture coupling. I've never seen those words together in an official document before today. We are currently, and I want to be precise about this, we are currently 22 minutes into the first confirmed wave of mandatory evacuations. The order covers the entire coastline of the state of Washington, from the Canadian border at Blaine down to the Oregon state line. Simultaneously, Oregon's Emergency Management Division has issued an evacuation order covering all coastal counties from Clatsop in the north to Curry in the south. California's governor has declared a state of emergency and evacuation orders are being issued in waves, starting with the northernmost counties, Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendocino. The orders are moving south like a zipper being pulled. If you are anywhere within 50 miles of the Pacific coast right now, I need you to understand something. The authorities are not asking you to be cautious. They are not recommending that you consider relocating. They are telling you to leave, now. Take nothing you cannot carry in 30 seconds. Move inland, move to high ground. If you are in Seattle, in Portland, in Eureka, in Santa Cruz, in San Francisco, and I know some of you are because I can hear the phone lines lighting up, you need to move. The rest of this broadcast will still be here. Your radio will still be here, but only if you go first. I'm going to read you the initial statement from NOAA's Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, issued 11 minutes ago. Quote, a series of significant seismic events has generated tsunami wave activity in the eastern Pacific Ocean. Initial modeling indicates wave heights of between 40 and 90 feet are possible for coastal areas of the Pacific Northwest. Arrival times for the first wave series are estimated between 45 and 90 minutes from initial rupture, depending on location. All residents of coastal zones in Washington, Oregon, and Northern California should evacuate to inland high ground immediately. This is not a drill, end quote. That statement was issued 11 minutes ago. We are now past the 45-minute lower bound for wave arrival in parts of Washington state. I need to pause on that for a moment because I think the weight of it may not have landed yet. The lower bound estimate has passed. That means if you are on the coast of Washington state, if you are in Aberdeen, in Westport, in Ocean Shores, and you have not already left, the first waves may be arriving at your coastline as I speak. I don't have confirmation yet. I'm watching my feed. I'm watching 3 screens right now, and I'm watching all of them simultaneously. The moment I have confirmation of impact, I will tell you. I will not hold anything back. That is what I'm here for. We are getting our first caller reports in. I want to be up front. Our phone lines are severely congested and our normal call screening process is not operating. I'm reading from typed messages being relayed to me by our production assistant, Dina, who is here in the booth with me. She's not going to speak on air. She's told me she can't, and I understand that, but she's here and she is working. The first message comes from a listener in Tacoma who says, and I'll read this exactly, I'm on Interstate 5 heading south and the traffic is stopped completely. There are people getting out of their cars. Some people are running. I don't know where they think they're going. I'm staying in my car because I have my dog and my dog can't run. Please tell me what to do. I hear you. I hear you. If you are in stopped traffic on a major highway and you cannot move, assess your elevation. If you are on a bridge, leave the vehicle immediately. If you are inland, more than 2 miles from the coast and not on low ground, stay in your vehicle and stay calm. The gridlock is happening everywhere, and it is going to be the biggest secondary danger of this event. We're now approaching the 1 hour mark since the initial seismic sequence began. I want to give you a picture of what we know geographically. The Cascadia rupture, based on USGS data, appears to have initiated at a point approximately 60 kilometers offshore from the Washington-Oregon border. The rupture propagated north and south simultaneously. Northward, it extended past Vancouver Island. Yes, Canada is in this. British Columbia's emergency management has issued a province-wide coastal evacuation order covering the entire BC coastline, including Vancouver Island, Victoria, Tofino, Port Hardy, Prince Rupert. South of the initiation point, the rupture extended along the Oregon coast and triggered what's being described as a sympathetic rupture of the northern San Andreas. That is a technical term meaning the two fault systems essentially fed each other. The energy didn't dissipate, it cascaded. I have just received, and I want to be careful because this is unconfirmed, I have just received a relay message that a wave has been visually observed making landfall at Westport, Washington. The report comes from an emergency services dispatcher in Grays Harbor County who is still at her post. She is no longer at her post. The relay message says the wave was described as, and I will read this precisely, a dark wall moving fast, higher than the buildings on the waterfront. That is the last message from that dispatcher. I don't know where she is. I hope she ran. I hope she had time. We're about 1 hour and 10 minutes in now. I want to acknowledge something. My hands are shaking a little bit. I want you to know that. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I've been doing emergency broadcast for 11 years. I have covered hurricanes and wildfires and floods, and I have sat in this chair and delivered terrible news, and I have always been steady. I am trying to be steady right now. But what is being described to me in these relay messages, what I am seeing on these feeds, this is different in scale from anything I have covered. So yes, my hands are shaking. But I am here, and I am not going anywhere. The seismic readings are still coming in from the broader Pacific Rim. This is where I need to expand the geographic picture significantly, because this event is not contained to North America. The deep ocean rupture 300 kilometers off the Oregon coast has generated wave trains moving west across the Pacific as well as east. PTWC, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, has issued warnings for Hawaii, for Japan, for the Philippines, for the eastern coast of Australia, and for New Zealand. These are not the same magnitude as what is hitting the Pacific coast of North America. The distance attenuates the energy, but they are not minor. Hawaii is being told to expect waves of 15 to 30 feet. Japan's JMA has issued alerts for its Pacific-facing coastlines. We are talking about a transoceanic event. I want that to settle in. This is not a regional disaster. This is a Pacific-wide disaster. Let me tell you what I know about infrastructure right now, because this is where things start to cascade in a different way. The Port of Seattle, one of the largest container ports in the United States, has been offline since wave impact was first confirmed. The Port of Tacoma, same situation. We are losing maritime infrastructure in real time. SeaTac Airport has ceased all operations. Portland International Airport issued a ground stop 20 minutes ago and is now reporting structural concerns with its lowest elevation terminals. San Francisco International Airport, which sits at the edge of San Francisco Bay, has issued a precautionary shutdown. LAX remains open at this hour but is reporting complete gridlock in its departure zones. People are trying to fly. The roads are blocked. The airports are at capacity or shutting down, and the waves haven't reached Southern California yet. I'm going to read another listener message. This one comes from someone who identifies themselves as a nurse at a hospital in Astoria, Oregon. She writes, "We received the evacuation order, but we cannot leave. We have 42 patients in our ICU who cannot be moved without killing them. We have requested helicopter evacuation support from the National Guard, but we have not received a response. We have 8 nurses, 2 doctors, and a hospital that sits 11 feet above sea level. Please, if anyone in authority is listening to this broadcast, please send help to Astoria. I am reading that on air. I am doing that intentionally. If anyone in any emergency coordination center, in any National Guard command, in FEMA, in anyone's office, if you are listening and you have assets you can direct, please direct them to Columbia Memorial Hospital in Astoria, Oregon. That is all I can do from this chair. I am doing it. We are approximately 1 hour and 40 minutes in. I can now confirm, based on multiple relay sources and one live feed that is still operational, that wave impact has been confirmed at the following locations: Westport, Washington, confirmed; Ocean Shores, Washington, confirmed; the Long Beach Peninsula, confirmed; Cannon Beach, Oregon, confirmed. We are receiving early aerial images from a Coast Guard helicopter that was repositioned inland before the event, and what I'm seeing on this feed, I'm looking at Cannon Beach right now and I need to take a breath. The water has gone well over the town. There's debris visible from altitude. There are cars in the debris field. I can see the roof of what appears to be a building. I cannot see people. I do not know if that means people evacuated successfully or if it means something else. I do not know. Initial casualty estimates are beginning to emerge from Washington State Emergency Management. I want to be very clear that these are preliminary and will change. The early estimate based on population data in coastal zones and known evacuation compliance rates suggests that between 15,000 and 40,000 people may have been in the highest risk coastal zones at the time of wave impact. Those are not casualty numbers. Those are population at risk numbers. The confirmed casualty count right now is 11. That is what is confirmed, but I need you to understand what confirmed means in this context. It means 11 bodies have been officially reported. It does not mean 11 is the total. Given the scope of impact, the gap between confirmed and actual casualties is going to be enormous, and it is going to grow for a long time. We are 2 hours and 15 minutes in. I want to address something that is happening on our phone lines and in our message relay because I think it's important. Some of you are asking me if this is real. Some of you are asking me if this is a broadcast test or a simulation. I understand why you're asking. I understand that the scale of what I'm describing sounds impossible. The Cascadia Subduction Zone has been described by scientists for decades as overdue for a major rupture. Every major earthquake study, every FEMA preparedness document, every academic paper on Pacific Northwest geology has described an event like this as inevitable. Not possible. Inevitable. The question was never if, it was when. The answer to when is now. This is real. Please act accordingly. The wave sequences are continuing. Tsunami waves do not arrive as a single wall of water and then recede. They arrive in multiple pulses, sometimes 40 minutes or more apart, with each successive wave potentially larger than the last. Emergency managers are begging people not to return to coastal areas after the first wave. Even if the water has receded, even if it looks safe, even if your house is somehow still standing, it is not safe. The water will come back, and it may come back higher. This is the fundamental misunderstanding that costs lives in tsunami events. People see the first wave withdraw and they go back. Please do not go back. We're getting a relay now from the British Columbia Emergency Management System. Victoria, on Vancouver Island, received wave impact approximately 35 minutes ago. The report coming through is, and this is being described as moderate impact relative to what's happening in Washington State, but moderate is a relative term. Victoria's inner harbor has been significantly inundated. The downtown waterfront areas of the city are reported as flooded to depths of between 8 and 15 feet. Casualties are unknown. The Tsawasan Ferry Terminal, which connects Vancouver Island to the mainland, is destroyed. The BC Ferries fleet has been repositioned, but 3 vessels that were docked at impact time are unaccounted for. There were passengers on those vessels. BC Emergency Management has not confirmed how many. I'm 3 hours in now. I've been broadcasting for 3 hours without a break, and I want to acknowledge that because time is going to become an important part of this broadcast. We are in the early phases of what is going to be a very long event. Let me give you a full geographic picture of confirmed impact zones as of this moment. In Washington State, the entirety of the coast from Cape Flattery south to the Columbia River has experienced tsunami wave impact. The interior of Grays Harbor County has been inundated. Aberdeen, a city of 16,000 people, is reporting flooding in its lower districts. Aberdeen sits 12 miles from the coast on a river inlet. The waves traveled that far inland. In Oregon, the coastal highway, Highway 101, is disrupted at multiple points by wave damage, debris, and flooding. Florence, Newport, Lincoln City, Tillamook, Seaside, all reporting impact. The Seaside report is particularly severe. Seaside is a small city with a large permanent and tourist population at essentially sea level. Eyewitness accounts being relayed suggest the entire lower portion of the city is underwater. Here's the infrastructure picture at the 3-hour mark. I want to read through this because infrastructure is how we survive, and you need to understand its status. Interstate 5 is experiencing severe gridlock from the Canadian border to Sacramento. This is not normal traffic. This is full-stop gridlock in which vehicles have been stationary for over an hour in multiple segments. Highway 101 is broken in at least 11 places along the Oregon coast. The Columbia River Bridge at Astoria is closed due to structural concerns following the seismic sequence. Power outages are being reported from Puget Sound south through the entire coast. An estimated 2.8 million homes and businesses are currently without power in Washington and Oregon combined. Cell network congestion is at critical levels. In some areas, cellular service has completely failed. I am one of the few signals still broadcasting clearly in the Pacific Northwest. If you are hearing my voice, please understand that this signal may be one of the most valuable resources in your area right now. Please share it, put it on speaker, gather people around it. A listener message from someone in Portland. They write, I am listening from the 7th floor of an apartment building in Northwest Portland. I cannot get out because my car is blocked in the parking garage and I can't open the gate. I'm not on the coast, but I'm scared. Is Portland safe? Portland, Oregon sits approximately 60 miles from the coast at its closest point, and it sits above sea level in its primary urban areas. The tsunami waves will not reach Portland. However, Portland is experiencing significant earthquake damage from the seismic sequence. Multiple buildings have reported structural damage. The city's water system is compromised in some districts. You should stay in your building if it is structurally sound, conserve water, and listen to this signal for updates. You are not in tsunami danger. You are in earthquake aftermath territory, which is serious but survivable. Stay calm, stay put. You are going to be okay. We are now approaching 4 hours in. I need to update the casualty figures. These are coming from a FEMA coordinating call that our station was patched into 17 minutes ago. Confirmed deaths across the Pacific Coast states as of 4 hours into the event, 847. That number has been confirmed by medical examiners or by direct witness accounts relayed to emergency management. Presumed missing, individuals who were known to be in impact zones and have not been accounted for, is estimated at between 12,000 and 30,000 people. Those numbers are too wide a range to be actionable right now. What they tell us is that the confirmed count of 847 will grow significantly as search and rescue operations begin. The National Guard has been activated in Washington, Oregon, and California. FEMA has initiated its Region 10 mass casualty response protocol. U.S. Northern Command is coordinating military assets. The Coast Guard is conducting aerial reconnaissance across the impact zone. The response is real, it is activated, and it is enormous, and it is still not enough for what has happened here. I'm going to take a moment to talk about something I haven't addressed yet because I think it's on everyone's mind. The rest of the world is watching this. I have been getting relay messages from international media. This broadcast is being rebroadcast in Canada, in Australia, and Japan. People in Tokyo are listening to my voice right now through a translator relay. I think about that sometimes during a broadcast, the invisible geography of who is on the other side of the signal. Tonight it is larger than I can comprehend. A message came through from a listener in Osaka, Japan, relayed through a shortwave amplifier. They write, "We are watching your coast from across the ocean. We have lit candles in our windows. We are praying for your people." I don't know why that one got to me. But it did. Thank you. Whoever you are, thank you for the candles. We are 5 hours in. I want to describe what is happening to the south because the wave train is still moving. Southern California's coastline is now beginning to receive wave impact. I want to be very clear about the physics here. The waves reaching Southern California are attenuated. They are smaller than what hit the Pacific Northwest. That is not the same as small. Los Angeles County's coast, Venice Beach, Santa Monica, Malibu, Long Beach, is being told to expect wave heights of between 12 and 25 feet. That is enough to cause catastrophic damage in low-lying coastal areas. The evacuation order for Los Angeles County's coastal zone was issued 3 hours ago. Compliance has been reported as mixed to poor by the Los Angeles County Emergency Operations Center. Mixed to poor. In a region of 11 million people, mixed to poor evacuation compliance is a tragedy waiting to confirm itself. I have just confirmed with our relay network that wave impact has been observed at Santa Cruz, California. The boardwalk area, the historic beachfront, is being described as destroyed. Santa Cruz has a population of approximately 64,000 people. The wave was estimated by a USGS observer stationed inland at approximately 18 feet at the shoreline, diminishing as it moved inland. We have no casualty reports from Santa Cruz yet. The phone lines from Santa Cruz are not functional at this hour. What I know is what I've described, a wave. A boardwalk, a city of 64,000 people that we cannot reach. 5.5 hours in, I'm starting to feel it now, the weight of sustained attention, sustained articulation. I've been speaking without meaningful pause for over 5 hours. My throat is dry. Dina, my production assistant, just put a cup of coffee on the console and I could have cried, which is an absurd thing to feel, but here we are. I'm drinking it now. It's hot. It's real. Good. We stay real. We stay here. A listener message sent through the relay network from someone who identifies themselves only as a father in Eugene, Oregon. He writes, "My daughter was on a school trip to the coast. I haven't heard from her in 4 hours. She's 12. Please keep talking. While you're talking, I feel like someone is looking for her. I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to keep talking until I don't have a voice left, and someone is looking for her. I promise you that someone is looking for her." 6 hours in, let me give you a summary of what we know. The Cascadia rupture sequence has been the largest seismic event recorded in North America in recorded history. The USGS is now reporting a magnitude of 9.2 on the moment magnitude scale, with the sympathetic San Andreas sequence adding further complexity. The tsunami waves generated by this event have impacted, or will impact within the next several hours, the following coastlines: Washington State, Oregon, Northern and Central California, British Columbia in Canada, and Southern California is currently being impacted. Waves have crossed the Pacific and preliminary impact reports are coming in from Hawaii, where waves of up to 20 feet have struck the Big Island's eastern coast. The island of Hilo on Hawaii has reported significant flooding. Japan's Tohoku coast is on high alert with the wave train expected to arrive in approximately 4 hours. New Zealand's east coast has been evacuated. The Philippines' eastern seaboard has issued warnings. Australia's Queensland coast is under advisory. This event is touching every shore of the Pacific Ocean, every single one. I want to talk about hospitals right now because I keep getting messages about hospitals and I need to address it directly. Along the Pacific coast, a significant number of community hospitals are in low elevation areas. That was a design decision made over many decades for practical reasons: proximity to population centers, available land, without full accounting for tsunami risk. At least 7 hospitals in coastal Washington and Oregon have been impacted by flooding. Of those 7, 3 have been completely evacuated, 2 have been partially evacuated, and 2 have not been evacuated and are currently unreachable by radio or phone. The patients who were in those hospitals, I cannot give you a number. I don't have one. I can tell you that we are doing everything we can to get that information, and when we have it, I will give it to you directly and without softening it. 7 hours in, the confirmed death toll has been updated. I am looking at the FEMA Emergency Coordinating System feed right now. Confirmed deaths 4,216. That is up from 847 4 hours ago. It will keep rising. The mechanism for that number rising is not new waves arriving, though that is also happening. The mechanism is search and rescue teams reaching areas that were inaccessible and finding what they find. This is the hardest part of covering a disaster of this scale. The death toll is not an event, it is a slow disclosure. Every hour someone reaches a place they couldn't reach before and they find what was left behind, and that number goes up. I'm going to report every update honestly. I am not going to make it softer. I'm going to read you the number and then I'm going to keep talking because that is what I can do. 8 hours in, I want to tell you about something that is happening that is not tragic. I want to do that deliberately because I think we need it. In Salem, Oregon, which is inland and was spared direct wave impact though it experienced strong earthquake shaking, a spontaneous aid coordination effort has emerged at the state fairgrounds. Private citizens with trucks, with boats, with medical training, with food and water began gathering there approximately 3 hours ago. No one announced it. No one organized it. People simply knew somehow that that was where to go. As of an hour ago, the fairgrounds had assembled over 600 volunteers, 47 boats, and a field medical triage station run by a retired military trauma surgeon who showed up with her own equipment. The Oregon National Guard has integrated this civilian effort into its response operations. 600 people who did not know each other are working together in the dark at a state fairground because they decided that was what they were going to do. I don't know what to do with something like that except tell you about it, so I'm telling you about it. Moving through hour 8 now, approaching 9. The wave train is continuing its journey west across the Pacific. Japan, and I want to be careful here because this is deeply important, Japan's JMA has issued its highest level tsunami warning for the Tohoku and Sanraku coasts, as well as the Pacific coast of Hokkaido. These are regions that have experienced devastating tsunami events before. The evacuation infrastructure in Japan is, by a significant margin, the most developed in the world. But the waves that are coming are large. Based on PTWC modeling, which I'm reading from the feed right now, Japan's Pacific-facing coastlines should expect wave heights of between 10 and 25 feet. In some harbor configurations, wave run-up could be higher. Japan has moved quickly. Japan knows what this looks like. Japan has been through this before, and it has rebuilt its early warning and evacuation systems specifically for moments like this one. I am genuinely hopeful about Japan's outcome relative to others. Their systems work. A listener message from someone in San Francisco. They write, "I'm watching from Twin Peaks. I can see the city below me in the bay. The bay looks wrong. The water level looks wrong. I've been watching it for an hour and I don't know how to describe it except wrong. The behavior they're describing is called seiching, the resonant oscillation of water in an enclosed bay or harbor triggered by seismic activity and incoming wave trains. San Francisco Bay is a semi-enclosed body of water connected to the Pacific by the Golden Gate. The behavior they're describing is real, and it is an indication that wave energy is entering the bay system. Low-lying areas around the bay, and there are many, are at risk of flooding. If you are in the Embarcadero area, in the Marina District, in Sausalito, in Alameda, in Oakland's waterfront areas, please move to higher ground. San Francisco's evacuation order covers the coastal zones, but the bay margins are also now at risk. Please move. We are 9 hours and 30 minutes in. I want to check in with you, not with the data, not with the casualty count, but with you, the person listening. If you're safe right now, if you have made it to higher ground, if you are in a shelter or in a friend's home or parked on a hillside somewhere, I want you to know that what you did leaving, making that choice, moving, that was the right thing. The single most important variable in survival during a tsunami event is whether people leave. You left. That matters enormously. If you're still in a dangerous area, if you have not yet been able to evacuate, if you are on a rooftop or in an upper floor waiting for help, stay high. Stay visible if you can. Hang something bright from a window. Help is coming. It is slow, but it is coming. And you are not forgotten. I am thinking about you specifically, not abstractly. You. 10 hours in, I want to do a full geographic accounting because the scope of this event has expanded beyond the initial impact zones, and I want you to have the full picture. Here are the confirmed impact locations as of this hour. In Canada, Victoria in the south of Vancouver Island, Tofino on the west coast of Vancouver Island. Tofino's entire beachfront community is reported destroyed. Port Alberni, which sits at the end of a long inlet and experienced significant wave amplification. In Washington state, the entire coastline, the Quinault Indian Nation's coastal village of Tahala, a community of about 900 people, has been devastated. The Hoh Tribe's reservation community. Grays Harbor County, Pacific County, Clallam County, all of the coastal counties. Ocean Shores, Westport, Long Beach. In Oregon, Seaside, Cannon Beach, Manzanita, Tillamook, Lincoln City, Newport, Florence, Coos Bay, Bandon, Gold Beach, Brookings. In California, moving south, Crescent City. Crescent City has a history with tsunami damage and its evacuation was quick, but the wave was large. Eureka, Fort Bragg, Bodega Bay, Stinson Beach, Pacifica, Santa Cruz, Capitola, Monterey. Wave impact is currently occurring along the Los Angeles coast. Reports of flooding in Venice, in Marina del Rey, in the low areas of Long Beach. 10.5 hours in, confirmed deaths 9,841. I am reading that number clearly. 9,841 confirmed deaths across the Pacific coast of North America as of 10.5 hours into this event. Missing persons reports number in the tens of thousands. I do not want to speculate about how many of those missing persons are dead. I will not do that. I will report the confirmed number as it is given to me, and I will not editorialize it. I need to talk about what's happening with the government response because there's been a significant development. FEMA's National Response Coordination Center has been in continuous operation since hour 1. But at approximately the 8-hour mark, something began to happen that I'm only now able to describe fully because I've been gathering information carefully. The scale of simultaneous impacts has exceeded the planning capacity of the response system, not because the people in the system are failing, because the scale is genuinely outside the parameters of what the system was designed to handle. The Stafford Act has been invoked. The President has declared a federal disaster for Washington, Oregon, and California simultaneously, only the third time in history that has happened. U.S. military logistics are being redirected in a way that has not occurred since major wartime mobilizations. But there is a gap, and the gap is the 48 to 72 hours before that full mobilization is effective. We are in that gap right now. Right now, in this moment, the people in the impact zones are largely dependent on each other and on the civilian volunteer networks that have spontaneously formed. That is not a failure of government. That is the honest arithmetic of catastrophe. 12 hours in, I'm going to be honest with you about something. I'm tired. I don't mean that as a complaint. I'm telling you because I promised you honesty and this is part of it. My voice is getting rough at the edges. I've been up for it. It's been a long time now. Dina is here. She brought food about an hour ago and I ate it without tasting it. I'm fine. I'm continuing. But I want you to know that I'm human and this is taking something from me and I think that's appropriate. It would be wrong if it didn't. It would be wrong if I could sit here for 12 hours describing the worst event on the Pacific coast in modern history and feel nothing. So I feel it, and then I keep going. That's what we do. Listener message from a man in Aberdeen, Washington, who's been relaying messages through a neighbor with a working signal booster. He writes, "The water came through our street about 6 hours ago. I was on my roof with my wife and our neighbor. The water was up to the second floor of most houses on our block. It has receded now, but not entirely. There are cars upside down in the intersection. I can see what I think is a person in a tree about 100 yards away, but I can't tell if they're moving. We are alive. We are going to keep being alive. Thank you for staying on the air. Thank you. Thank you for being on your roof. Thank you for watching for your neighbor in the tree. Thank you for existing in this particular moment and choosing to keep existing in it." 12.5 hours in, I want to update you on the international picture. Japan, I have an update from Japan. The wave train arrived on the Tohoku coast approximately 40 minutes ago. Japan's evacuation, I said earlier I was hopeful about Japan's systems, and the initial reports are bearing that out. Evacuation compliance on the Tohoku coast is being reported at approximately 80 to 85%. That is an extraordinary figure given the short warning window. The waves that struck the Japanese coast were between 15 and 22 feet at the shoreline, with run-up in some coastal valleys reaching higher. There is damage, there is destruction, but Japan's investment in sea walls, in elevated evacuation routes, in its famous tsunami warning system has measurably saved lives. Preliminary casualty estimates from Japan are in the range of hundreds rather than tens of thousands. That is the difference that preparation makes. That is the difference. I want every city planner and every emergency management official and every elected representative who is listening to this broadcast to hear that number and understand what it represents. Hawaii update: the big island of Hawaii received the first waves approximately 7 hours ago. Wave heights on the eastern shore reached 17 feet. Hilo, which sits in a bay configuration that amplifies incoming waves, was severely impacted. Honolulu on Oahu's southern shore received waves of between 8 and 12 feet. Waikiki Beach, one of the most visited tourist locations on the planet, was inundated. The evacuation of Oahu's coastal areas was significantly complicated by the island's transportation limitations. You cannot simply drive inland indefinitely on Oahu. The island has evacuation zones and designated shelter areas in the higher elevations, but reaching them requires moving through traffic that becomes gridlocked quickly. Hawaiian Emergency Management is reporting that the situation on Oahu is significantly challenging. That is a careful phrase. What it means, reading between the lines of careful official language, is that there were people who did not make it to safety on Oahu. 14 hours in. We are 14 hours into this event. The confirmed death toll updated 15 minutes ago, 17,409. 17,409. I'm going to sit with that number for a moment before I continue. 17,000 people who were alive yesterday. 17,000 people who had plans for the rest of their week, who had food in their refrigerators, who had people who loved them. 17,000. The number is going to keep going up. I know that, and I'm telling you that, but I'm also telling you the number because the alternative, softening it, averaging it, treating it as an abstraction, would be a betrayal. These are people. 17,409 of them confirmed at 14 hours. I want to talk about what's happening in the evacuation centers. There are now, according to the FEMA shelter registry, which I'm accessing through our emergency relay, there are now 412 designated emergency shelters open across Oregon, Washington, and California. Combined capacity of those shelters is approximately 820,000 people. Current occupancy reported as of an hour ago, 1,100,000 people. The shelters are at 134% of capacity. People are sleeping on gymnasium floors, on parking lots, in the corridors of schools and churches and civic centers. Food and water distribution is being managed, but supply chains are strained. The I-5 corridor, which is the primary resupply route for the entire Pacific coast, is still experiencing severe congestion in multiple segments. Military logistics convoys have been given priority authorization to use shoulders and emergency lanes, but the volume of civilian evacuation traffic is enormous. The supply situation is manageable for the next 24 hours. Beyond that, it will need active intervention. I'm going to read something that a listener sent in about 4 hours ago, and I've been holding on to it because I didn't know if this was the right moment. They write, and they did not give a name, just a location, just the Oregon coast. They write, I'm a lighthouse keeper. My lighthouse is on a headland about 90 feet above sea level. The waves didn't reach me. I watched them arrive. I watched what they did to the town below. I have a radio and I've been listening to you for 14 hours. I want you to know that from up here, even after everything, the water is still beautiful. I don't mean that wrong. I mean the ocean is still the ocean. It was here before us and it will be here after us, and it doesn't know what it did. I think about that. I'm okay. I'm still here. Keep going. I'm going to keep going. KAI Mercer, 15 hours in. The wave sequence is continuing to lose energy as it propagates across the wider Pacific, but the situation in New Zealand has deteriorated significantly. The South Island's east coast, including Christchurch, which has already endured devastating earthquakes in its recent history, received waves of 8 to 14 feet approximately 2 hours ago. New Zealand's East Coast communities had roughly 6 hours of warning, and the evacuation compliance appears to have been strong. But Christchurch, still rebuilding from its earlier earthquake sequence, was not ideally positioned to absorb another major disaster. New Zealand's Prime Minister has issued a national emergency declaration. The country is receiving international assistance requests from multiple directions simultaneously. Australia's Queensland coast has received waves and is reporting coastal flooding in low-lying beach communities north of Brisbane. The Philippines' eastern Samar coast is reporting waves and flooding. This event has now affected communities on 6 coastlines across the Pacific Basin. I need to update you on communications infrastructure because it directly affects what I know and what I can tell you. At this hour, my information sources have narrowed significantly from what they were 6 hours ago. Cellular networks remain severely congested or offline across most of the Pacific Northwest. The internet backbone in the region has experienced significant disruption due to power outages affecting data center operations. Satellite internet in the region is being prioritized for emergency management communication. My feed into the FEMA coordination system is now operating through a military communications relay that was established 4 hours ago, and I am genuinely grateful for it. It means I still have data, but the data is coming more slowly. The gaps between updates are getting longer. I'm filling those gaps with listener messages, with what I can observe and with what I know. I'm not filling those gaps with speculation. That is a deliberate choice, and I am sticking to it. 16 hours in, I have a government statement to read. This comes from the FEMA administrator, released 1 hour ago. I will read it in full. Quote, the federal government is fully activated in response to the Pacific Coast seismic and tsunami event. The President has authorized all available federal resources for search and rescue, medical support, logistics, and emergency shelter. The Department of Defense is providing helicopter assets, naval vessels, and logistical support. The Army Corps of Engineers is mobilizing for debris clearance and infrastructure assessment. FEMA urges all residents to remain in designated shelter areas and to refrain from returning to impact zones until official clearance is given. This is a long-duration event and recovery will take months and years, not days. The full power of the federal government is committed to this effort. End quote. That is the official statement. I believe it is sincere. I also believe that the gap between what that statement describes and what is currently happening on the ground, in the dark, in the flooded streets of small coastal towns, that gap is real and large, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. 16 and a half hours in. Confirmed deaths 22,014. 22,014. The curve is still rising. Search and rescue teams are reaching areas now that were inaccessible in the first 12 hours, and the accounting is grim. I am told by the FEMA coordination team that the confirmed figure will likely reach between 35 and 50,000 before the count stabilizes. Missing persons who are still unaccounted for number over 90,000. I want to be careful about how I talk about that second number. Not all of the missing are dead. Some of them are in shelters that have not completed their intake registry. Some of them are with family members who could not communicate. Some of them are on rooftops that search and rescue has not reached. Some of them are alive and scared and waiting. Please hold that possibility. Please hold the idea that the 90,000 includes people who are going to be found. 17 hours, a listener message from a man named Declan in Seattle. He writes, I work in emergency management. I have worked in this field for 22 years. I want to say something to you and to whoever is listening. The Cascadia Subduction Zone rupture was in every major preparedness plan we had. We war-gamed it. We drilled it. We published estimates. We knew the casualty projections. And now it's happened and the numbers are exactly what we projected, and that is somehow the hardest thing of all. We knew, and we still couldn't stop it. Declan, if you're listening, you couldn't stop the earthquake. No one could. What you and people like you did was build the evacuation plans and the shelter networks and the early warning systems that are right now the difference between tens of thousands of deaths and hundreds of thousands. You knew. And because you knew, you prepared. And because you prepared, people lived. I need you to hold on to that. 18 hours in, I want to give you a picture of what the coastline looks like right now, as best as I can describe it from aerial imagery and eyewitness relay. The physical coastline of the Pacific Northwest has been altered. Coastal communities that were built over generations, that had been there for 100 years or more, have been stripped to foundations. In some places, the foundations themselves are gone, scraped clean by wave action. The debris field extends miles inland in some locations. The debris contains everything that was in those towns: buildings, vehicles, boats, trees, power lines, the contents of lives. The coast of Washington State and Oregon, which was one of the most beautiful coastlines on the North American continent, is unrecognizable in its impacted areas. I don't know how to describe the emotional weight of that. I'm trying to stay analytical. But I drive Highway 101 once a year, every year, and I know every pull-off and every cliff view and every little town where I've stopped for coffee, and I know the way the light looks over the water in the late afternoon, and I don't know what to do with what I'm seeing on these feeds. I'm sorry, give me a moment. I'm back, I'm here, let me keep going. 18 and a half hours in. The situation in Southern California is evolving. Los Angeles County's coastal areas have been impacted by waves in the 8 to 15-foot range, which is smaller than the Pacific Northwest impacts, but still devastating in a densely populated urban coastline. Marina del Rey has experienced significant flooding. The Venice Beach area has been heavily impacted. Malibu's Pacific Coast Highway, which is a road that runs at essentially sea level for miles along the base of the Santa Monica Mountains, has been inundated and in some sections destroyed. The Pacific Coast Highway is the only road connecting many Malibu communities to the rest of the county. Its disruption has isolated portions of the coast. San Diego County to the south received waves of 6 to 10 feet. The Mission Bay area flooded. the Coronado Peninsula experienced significant wave action. San Diego's naval installations were placed on emergency protocols. All naval vessels in port were ordered to sea to ride out the waves, a standard procedure. The naval base itself experienced flooding in its low-lying areas. 19 hours in. Let me talk about what happens next because I think people need to hear it. The immediate crisis, the waves, the initial impact, the first terrible hours, that is not over, but it is entering a transition. The wave train has passed its peak energy for North America. The immediate threat is diminishing for communities that have not yet been impacted. The ongoing threat is for communities already impacted, where secondary hazards, gas leaks, structural collapse, contaminated water, disease, exposure are now the primary dangers. And then there's the third phase, which we are beginning to enter, the long arc of recovery. The Pacific coast of the United States and Canada will not look the same in a year. It will not function the same. The loss of ports, of coastal infrastructure, of entire communities, the economic and social disruption will extend far inland, far beyond the tsunami zones. This is going to change the Pacific Northwest in ways that will take a generation to fully understand. Listener message from someone who does not give a name but says they are broadcasting from a hand-cranked radio in a shelter in Astoria. They write, the hospital sent word. They got helicopter support. They evacuated the ICU patients. All 42. They're all alive. I need you to understand what it means for me to read that sentence right now. All 42. If you're in any emergency management center, if you directed those helicopters to Astoria, Oregon, thank you, thank you. Those 42 people are alive because of you. That is real. That happened. I need that to be real right now. 20 hours in, confirmed deaths, 31,209, 31,000. The death toll from the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami in Japan was approximately 20,000. We have surpassed that figure. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami resulted in approximately 227,000 deaths across 14 countries. I am not saying we will reach those numbers. I am providing context. This event is, in terms of death toll in a single nation, the worst natural disaster in American history. I want you to hear that. I want the people who will read the transcripts of this broadcast, who will analyze it, who will teach about it. I want them to know that at 20 hours into the event, the person in the booth understood the scale and said so out loud on air without softening it. 21 hours, I'm going to tell you something personal. I have been broadcasting emergency radio for 11 years. Before that, I was a journalist. Before that, I was a college student who thought he might become a novelist, who thought language was the most powerful tool available to human beings, who thought if you could describe something with sufficient precision and feeling, you could give people the tools to survive it. I still believe that. It's why I'm here. It's why I have been here for 21 consecutive hours. The world is in crisis, and I have a microphone and a signal and a voice that has not given out yet, and as long as those things are true, I am going to use them. That is not heroism. That is the most basic understanding of what I was put here to do. Some of you have been listening for the entire 21 hours. I want you to know that your presence on the other side of this signal matters to me in ways I cannot fully articulate. You are why I keep going. 21 and a half hours in, I want to give you an update on the restoration efforts. Power is being restored in some interior areas of Washington and Oregon that were not directly impacted by wave damage, but lost power due to earthquake damage to the transmission grid. Bonneville Power Administration has crews working on multiple segments of the high-voltage transmission network. In some shelter facilities, power has been restored, which is critically important for medical equipment and for the communication networks. The I-5 corridor southbound is now partially moving. Military logistics have cleared a priority lane and civilian traffic is beginning to flow again, slowly. The first emergency supply convoys reached the Salem, Oregon staging area 6 hours ago. Food, water, medical supplies, and shelter materials are moving. It is slow. It is not enough yet, but it is moving. 22 hours. I have an update on the international situation that I want to give you carefully. Japan's final preliminary casualty count from the wave impact on the Tohoku coast is being reported at approximately 2,300 people confirmed dead. That is a devastating number in absolute terms. In relative terms, given wave heights of 15 to 22 feet on a heavily populated coastline, it represents an outcome that is significantly better than models feared. Japan's sea walls, its elevated evacuation routes, its decades of investment in tsunami preparedness, these things save tens of thousands of lives. I want to say that one more time for clarity. The investment Japan made in tsunami preparedness after 2011 saved tens of thousands of lives tonight. The Philippines is reporting approximately 800 deaths from wave impact. New Zealand is reporting approximately 400, Australia 200. These are preliminary figures and they will change. The global death toll from this event outside North America appears to be in the range of 5 to 8,000 at this hour. Inside North America, we are at 31,000 confirmed and rising. 23 hours in, I have to tell you something about the next few hours. My signal has held. I have been on this frequency for 23 hours and the transmitter is working and the emergency power is working and I am still here. But I am aware that this signal is finite. Emergency fuel supplies for our transmitter were calculated at 36 hours when this event began. We have used 23 of them. I have 13 hours of broadcast left under current conditions unless resupply arrives. I want to be transparent about that because you deserve to know the shape of what I can offer. I have contacted the National Guard Relay Network about fuel resupply and I have received acknowledgement. I do not know if they will reach us in time. What I can tell you is that for the next 13 hours at minimum I am here, and every hour I have I will use. 23 and a half hours in, I have just received an updated missing persons accounting that I want to share carefully. Of the approximately 92,000 individuals reported missing at the 16-hour mark, the following updates have come in. Approximately 34,000 have been located in shelter registries. They were alive and accounted for and simply hadn't been matched to their missing persons report yet. Approximately 12,000 are confirmed at community gathering points, not yet integrated into the official system. That leaves approximately 46,000 individuals who remain unaccounted for in any system. Of those 46,000, emergency management is estimating that between 30 and 40,000 are likely deceased, based on their known last locations and the wave impact data. That is a range they are not ready to confirm. They will confirm it over the coming days and weeks as search and rescue operations complete their work. I will not rush that confirmation. I will report it when it is given. 24 hours, we have been in this event for 24 hours. I am going to take 1 full minute of silence at the end of this broadcast segment in memory of those we have lost. But first, let me give you the full accounting of what has happened and what lies ahead, because you deserve a complete picture. At 24 hours into the Pacific Coast catastrophe, here is what we know. The Cascadia Subduction Zone rupture, magnitude 9.2, triggered a catastrophic tsunami that devastated the entire Pacific coast of North America from British Columbia to Southern California. The total length of significantly impacted coastline spans approximately 2,200 miles. The wave heights that struck the Pacific Northwest, between 40 and 90 feet in the most impacted locations, exceeded the upper range of most preparedness models. The waves that struck Southern California were smaller, between 8 and 25 feet, but struck a far more densely populated coastline. The total confirmed death toll at 24 hours stands at 38,462. That number will rise. Emergency management officials estimate the final confirmed death toll will be between 65,000 and 95,000, making this the deadliest natural disaster in the history of North America by a significant margin. In terms of infrastructure, 12 major coastal ports have been rendered non-operational. The ports of Seattle, Tacoma, Portland, via the Columbia River, Coos Bay, Eureka, and multiple smaller facilities are destroyed or severely damaged. The loss of these ports will disrupt supply chains for the Pacific Northwest, with national and global economic consequences for a minimum of 2 to 3 years. Major coastal airports at SeaTac, Portland International, and San Francisco International have sustained damage. Highway 101 along the entire Pacific coast is broken in over 40 locations. The Columbia River Bridge at Astoria is structurally compromised. The Bay Bridge in San Francisco has been inspected and declared structurally sound, but is operating at reduced capacity. More than 3 million homes remain without power. Water service is disrupted in dozens of coastal and near-coastal communities. In terms of population displacement, approximately 1.4 million people are currently in emergency shelter across the 3 Pacific Coast states and British Columbia. An additional estimated 3 million people have self-evacuated to the homes of family or friends outside the impact zones. The coastal communities themselves, the small towns, the beach cities, the waterfront neighborhoods, a significant number of them no longer exist in the form they did 24 hours ago. Cannon Beach, Oregon, Seaside, Oregon, Westport, Washington, Ocean Shores, Washington, Tahala, Washington, Tofino, British Columbia, Pacific City, Oregon. These are not damaged communities. These are communities that have been fundamentally destroyed and will require complete rebuilding, if they are rebuilt at all, over a period of years. What remains, the great inland cities are damaged but standing. Portland is damaged but standing. Seattle is damaged but standing. San Francisco is damaged but standing. Los Angeles is damaged but standing. The people who live in those cities, the vast majority of them are alive. The interior of the Pacific Coast states, the Great Valleys, the mountain communities, the high desert, the forests, these places are intact. The population of the western United States is alive, shaken. Displaced in many cases, grieving in every case, but alive, that matters enormously. The infrastructure will take years to rebuild, the grief will take a lifetime, but the people are here. What happens next? The federal recovery effort is now the largest mobilization of domestic federal resources in American history. The Army Corps of Engineers will work for years on coastal infrastructure. FEMA will operate a disaster recovery presence in the affected region for, by all realistic estimates, 3 to 5 years. The economic cost of this event will ultimately be measured in hundreds of billions of dollars. Congressional emergency appropriations are already being drafted. International aid has been offered by over 40 countries. Canada, Japan, Australia, the United Kingdom, Germany, South Korea. Offers are coming in and are being coordinated through the State Department. Japan's offer of assistance carries a particular weight given Japan's own experience, and it has been accepted with the full and humble gratitude it deserves. Will humanity stabilize from this? Yes, I am saying yes clearly and without ambiguity because you deserve a clear answer. The Pacific coast of North America will be rebuilt. The coastal communities that were destroyed will be reimagined and reconstructed, in some cases farther inland on higher ground, with the lessons of this event embedded in every design decision. The ports will be rebuilt because they must be, because the commerce of the Pacific cannot stop. The airports will reopen. The highways will be repaired. The hospitals will be rebuilt. The communities will reconstitute, not all of them in the same place. Not all of them in the same form, but they will reconstitute because that is what human communities do. They persist, they mourn, and they persist. The death toll of this event, which will be ultimately confirmed somewhere between 65 and 95,000, will be the most devastating loss of life in North American history. It will reshape how we think about coastal planning, about tsunami preparedness, about the relationship between human settlement and the geological reality beneath our feet. That reshaping, as terrible as its cause, may ultimately save the lives of those who come after us. That is not consolation, but it is true, and I believe in truth. I have been broadcasting for 24 hours. My voice is raw. My eyes are burning. Dina is asleep on a cot in the corner of the booth that she brought herself. She pulled it in from the supply room 3 hours ago, and she has been waking up every 30 minutes to check the relay feed and hand me notes and then going back to sleep. She is extraordinary. I want her to know that if she hears this back, she is extraordinary. The transmitter is still running. The signal is still clear. I am told by our relay network that I am currently the primary operating emergency broadcast signal for the entire Pacific Northwest corridor. Other stations have gone dark due to power failures or transmitter issues. We have stayed up. We will stay up for as long as we have fuel and as long as I have a voice. I want to read you one final listener message from all the ones that have come in tonight. This one came in about an hour ago. It is from a woman who says she is 83 years old and is in a shelter in Eugene, Oregon. She was evacuated from her home near Lincoln City by her granddaughter, who drove 6 hours to reach her. She writes, "I was born in a small town on the Oregon coast. I have lived my whole life within sight of the water. The ocean has been the sound I fall asleep to every night for 83 years. I know what it can do. I have always known what it can do, but I have always loved it anyway. I am safe in Eugene. My granddaughter is with me. I am going to go back to the coast when they let me. Not to my house, I know my house is gone, but to the coast. Because it is still my coast, it will always be my coast. Her name is Marguerite. I'm going to remember her name for the rest of my life. My name is Kai Mercer. I have been your voice on WKPR Emergency Frequency 91.7 for the last 24 hours. I'm going to keep broadcasting for as long as this signal holds, but before I continue into the next hours, I want to say something directly, clearly, without equivocation, to every person who is listening. You are not alone in this. The scale of this disaster is incomprehensible, and the grief it carries is real and legitimate, and it will last a very long time. But you are not alone in it. There are hundreds of thousands of people right now, across the Pacific coast and across the country and across the world, who are thinking about the people in the impact zones, who are sending help, who are volunteering, who are lighting candles in windows in Osaka, who are leaving their homes in the middle of the night to drive to a state fairground in Salem because they decided that was what they were going to do. You are surrounded by that, even if you cannot see it in the dark. The ocean is still there, the morning will come. Marguerite is going home to her coast, and I am still here on this frequency for every person who needs a voice to hold on to in the dark. Stay with me. I'm not going anywhere. This has been the last broadcast. I'm Kai Mercer. The frequency is 91.7. The time is 24 hours and 14 minutes since the first report came in. I am still here. You are still here. That is enough for now. That is everything.